Welcome to another episode of Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, CEO of 5-Star BDM, a 5-star personal branding and business development company. I want to take you on a journey that takes another deep dive into the world of personal branding and business development using compelling personal story, business conversations, and tips to improve your personal brand. By listening to the Follow the Brand podcast series, you will be able to differentiate yourself from the competition and allow you to build trust with prospective clients and employers. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. Make it one that will set you apart, build trust, and reflect who you are. Developing your 5-star personal brand is a great way to demonstrate your skills and knowledge. If you have any questions for me or my guests, please email me at grant.mcgaugh, spelled M-C-G-A-U-G-H, at 5-star BDM, B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. Now let's begin with our next 5-star episode on Follow the Brand. Welcome to the year 2022. I am your host, Grant McGaugh of the Follow the Brand podcast, and I have an important question to ask you. What if the next big opportunity was right in front of you? Are you prepared to take advantage? My guest, Carl McIver, delves into this question and more as we explore the possibilities that await those ready to explore the MetaVerse. It is essential to know how to position yourself for career success by utilizing technology to create wealth in the digital age. Gamification has been used in the MetaVerse extensively. It is not new. However, now the creative design opportunity is open to everyone. Imagine having meetings not on a 2x2 window on your Zoom, but in a full-body, 3-dimensional executive virtual reality meeting room space. You too can own the creative edge that differentiates your position in the market with an affordable price tag to share ideas and concepts in your professional business network. Carl McIver says, the more you validate others, the stronger you become. Have a strong, different idea. Don't be afraid to be different or fail if someone doesn't understand what you are doing. If you're not first, you're last is Carl McIver's motto. He serves as a creative talent for small to large organizations, advertising agencies, design studios, and independent clients. Over the years, it has helped him to realize that being the best is good, but being the first is better. His education began at the High School of Art and Design in New York City and Pratt Institute of Design in Brooklyn, New York. Carl has been fortunate to have worked with creative teams in producing materials for Apple, American Express, Sears, Pfizer, Google, New York Medicaid Managed Care, Columbia Music, Simon Schuster, and many more. He has learned much from these project experiences and earned multiple design awards over the past years. Doing what you love in life is only as important as caring for the people you serve. He has enjoyed many decades of volunteer work in interior design and video direction for the Watchtower and Bible Tract Society. Carl has also traveled to Hong Kong, Paris, Italy, Greece, and Hawaii as an international convention delegate for the organization. He is proud to have recently launched a few global initiatives to provide public awareness and brand identity engagement. Carl has branding, social media creative oversight of Red Bloodless Medicine and Surgery, the nursing ecosystem, and MetaVerse Fitting, which provides new pathways for public awareness, more significant partnerships, and more stakeholder positioning opportunities. Let's welcome Carl McIver to the Follow the Brand podcast, where we are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. Welcome, everybody, for another weekly episode on Follow the Brand. I am your host, Grant McGaugh, and today we have a branding expert. I've been working with Carl off and on through the world of social media, specifically on LinkedIn, we got together, we saw some different similarities and things that we're doing, some synergies between us. He's in healthcare, I'm in healthcare. He loves helping nurses. I love helping nurses. And we were able to collaborate. And as we got deeper and deeper into that, we started having more meaningful discussions, online. And then we've taken them offline. And we're learning more and more about each other. And he brought up some subjects around the metaverse. This is something that's brand new. It's out there now. Some things people may know about, some other things they know absolutely clueless about. But we're going to talk to a brand expert. He's been doing this for a number of different years. He's in that mad world of New York City or right outside of it. So he knows the Mecca. When you talk about branding and what's going on, New York City is where you want to be. So without further ado, I want to bring Carl up on the mic and let's get introduced to Mr. McIver.
Grant, how are you doing?
I'm living a good life. I'm trying to live it even better vicariously through you. How about that?
Well, we've been mirroring each other, so it's been a light on my part as well. And I just want to thank you because you are creative and you bring out a platform that allows folks like me to be able to articulate some of the ideas that we've come up late at night and our wives may have rejected. This way we're able to get it on. So I thank you for that.
No, I thank you a lot. I did a show not too long ago and actually did it, over video. It's one of our first video productions. And I shared that with you. It was a video production on a healthcare executive, Andrea Price. And it was kind of a recap. First time I did that, with a very good video photographer. And it came off really well. And I shared it with you. And you were like, wow, man, you've upped your game. You got my attention. You gave me some very good feedback. And I really, really liked it. And then you just intrigued me again. And you start talking about, well, Grant, what do you know about the metaverse? I'm like, the metaverse? Are we talking Facebook? We're talking Zuckerberg? Or what are we talking about here? And you said you've got some insights around the metaverse that's helping you to even be more creative. So tell me about some of the key objectives in that area.
That's a good question. The metaverse is not new in the sense that it hadn't existed before. Gaming has used the metaverse extensively. But here's the challenge. We'll call it the general market, the general public pretty much may not know much about it or ever used it. So we can call it the greatest niche, and it's probably made billions of dollars for these various companies. So now the question regarding the metaverse, it really depends on where you're sitting regarding the objective. Facebook's objective is much different. And that's a whole different conversation that I probably won't delve into, but we'll just say it's a different objective. Microsoft has an objective for the metaverse as well, and I'm sure that Apple will too. So how you sit and where you position yourself in this metaverse is very important. The metaverse is not, we could say, a large room where everyone enters into the space. So technically, it gives anyone that has an interest to develop their own metaverse. Now, with that being said, it opens up great opportunity to be creative. It opens up opportunities for individuals to develop their own platforms. But of course, what goes along with that would be obviously the technical side and the other logistics. But here we're looking at a platform that's greater than just the internet. So now people won't have to be two-dimensional. We could be actually three-dimensional. We can actually now have avatars that either resemble us or even greater than us. We can now have meetings anywhere we like. I can meet with you on a beach and we can sit and we can chat. Just think about that for a second and wrap your brain around it, and then it becomes greater than what it really is. Now, for me, I looked at this metaverse and said to myself, when do, whether it's a culture or people, individual, have the opportunity to literally jump into something? It's rare. It's almost like you think about those old Western movies where, let's say California was up for grabs. And then they would literally, at 12 o'clock, everybody run and get your spot. Well, this is what the metaverse is. You run and grab your spot. Now,
right.
of course, the large company's going to have big spots, but that doesn't mean you can't have something. So that's what I love about this opportunity.
Now, so, and you mentioned gaming. And so this is definitely a game changer. Now, I'm curious. You got me curiosity up, because one thing, Facebook changed its name to MetaVerse. I would figure that's going to be their platform. That's their branding. But you're telling me that the MetaVerse is really a virtual reality platform, sort of like the internet, meaning no one really owns the internet. It's a shared platform. So this MetaVerse is a shared platform. And then I guess there's different, just like a website, there's different creativity that's within that particular website as opposed to another one. So that virtual reality, that augmented reality is what's taking place. Can you help me out? Am I on the right track here?
That's an excellent track. Now, keep in mind, I'm not an IT person, and I'm sure there's people that could be able to describe this better than me. But here's simple. Not one company owns the metaverse. Now, with that being said, which it basically means that a metaverse can be developed with anyone. I'm developing a metaverse now. I'm developing terminologies that didn't exist before. Metagration is a terminology that I developed. Now, some may say, wait a minute, how are you developing different terms with something so large? Well, why not? I mean, someone has to develop terms. Now, we're going to leave those responsibilities up to, let's say, the larger companies. I'm not going to mention any by name, but I'll just say the larger companies, they can. But remember, this is the first time I feel in life that the field is open. It's really open. So the first persons that have the guts, let's say have the wherewithal and the boldness to make a statement, well, they're going to make a statement. And I feel that I have those characteristics to make a statement. Now, I'm not saying that my statement is on target 100%, but at the end of the day, isn't it great that we all have the opportunity to make a statement?
I think what you're talking about game changer. I'm envisioning 1998. I'm getting on a modem, 56K modem to interact with the internet. AOL is, top of mind at that point. And everybody's kind of slow, it's slow go, but then it got bigger with high-speed internet, right? And the access for high-speed internet. I'm talking real techie right now, but that kind of opened everything up. Now, because we've had this COVID world, we got so many more people exposed to communications, video conferencing, just like we're doing now. It's commonplace. People are used to it. They see it on their phone, they see it on their desktop, they see it on their tablet. No problem. And people have been kind of exposed. They've seen virtual reality, they put on the glasses and they've gone kind of deep into the 3D world and they see that kind of realism. And what you're talking about is now you can now start anew and get a feel for being at the beach with such realism that you might prefer it, is what I'm starting to say.
You made a very interesting point I'd like to go back on. Because we all remember that sound, and then you get on. So we all know those AOL days.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Those platforms are already developed. You entered into them. And maybe you developed a website or you got a domain. But technically, you had nothing to do with the construction of that environment. Here is the first time that I can have a level of game, not change the game, but to be part of the game, to make a statement. Now, here's what I mean by that. COVID changed the whole way we do business. When COVID came, people were really engaged on social media, whether it's LinkedIn or the other social media platforms. Now, That little square you see, I don't know, was it a 2-inch by 2-inch or maybe that square is shared by everyone. You could be the largest company on this planet with billions of dollars gross and maybe 500 folks that are coming up with ideas. But guess what? Your square is no larger than mine. And I'm sitting in my pajamas coming up with an idea. Right. Just think about that. We're all at the same starting line. Mm. So when a large company posts, guess what? My post is right behind. When has that ever took place in your life? And as far as culture is concerned, there is no real culture when it comes to being on that social media. Social media doesn't say, well, because you're this color, you can't come on. No, not at all. So I think it's the best time ever that there is no license, there's no barrier of entry. It's just the responsibility is placed on us to put something out there that's engaging, tasteful, and something that's going to span with longevity.
No, and what you just said there, I completely agree with. Social media, being adept at social media has changed the playing field. I look at myself in kind. I have this podcast. I have availability of a large TV company, a radio station. I have the same reach. I have about 20,000 different followers. Because I have access and I've developed my own platform and that I have an engaging audience, I can now have creative conversation. And I'm only limited really by my own creativity and network. And then when I speak to someone like a Carl McIver, and this is how we got together, you're seeing me on social media. I'm seeing you on social media. And we're seeing where our intersections are. And like, hey, what's going on with this nursing ecosystem that you got going? Look like you worldwide. Now, you're a branding expert. Now, tell us a little bit more about you yourself and what you're doing.
Okay. Well, let's take away the word expert. I don't call myself an expert. I'll say this. If you see something I post and you like it, well, then you made me an expert. But other than that, I start off with an idea like everyone else. The only difference, maybe I come up with more ideas, maybe faster, and I have many tools to execute them. I'm a cinematographer. I do videography. I also am an art director. I do Photoshop. I've designed materials for large companies. Actually, one of the companies I used to do a lot of business with was a company called Maximus. And Maximus is well known for having contracts with different states. And I handled doing the design and the branding for them, the design work for them. They have a branding people, obviously, and was for New York and New York State and won awards for that. So it comes, where I do now comes with a lot of, I'll say, back history. I worked at ad agencies, design studios. I worked in music a little bit. So it's just putting all those different histories together to be able to now produce my own initiative. Nursing ecosystem. I woke up one morning and I thought about something. I said, wait a minute. First of all, nurses were never treated with the respect they deserve. Hands down. I used to work for hospitals, some of the largest hospitals in New York, Montefiore. I worked for Mount Sinai. I worked for many of the hospitals in the New York City area. And although they appreciated their nurses never were given the respect they deserve. Now, here comes the pandemic, and we need them more than ever. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around, just because you give them a couple balloons and some cake and a dance through a ward, that should be enough. That doesn't tell the story of what they've done. And then I thought about this field, the nursing field. But wait a minute. When have the term field ever been something that's complimentary?
Right.
Go back to the field. Wait a minute. Where are you from, the field? So I said, let's pause for a second. And then on all these social media, you have so many nurses in these associations saying, we're innovative. Well, then there's a problem here. How can you be innovative and at the same time be in the field? It just didn't make sense to me. The field comes with barriers, comes with borders. Technically, you're not supposed to leave the field. So then I said, ecosystem. Ecosystem. That's a perfect term. Not only that, it gives the nurses their own individual brand. And it puts them in a place of technology. They're organically growing. There's no barriers around how far they would like to go. So that's when we came up with the whole concept, the nursing ecosystem. And then we actually had plane tickets. And we actually did, you probably saw some of the posts.
Yeah,
so
I did.
I'm probably embarrassed because my team, I have a team. And when I come up with an idea, sometimes the idea is very strong. And they'll say, no, Carl, don't do that. Don't do that. So sometimes you'll see me post, I said, wait a minute, that's a little too strong. But the whole concept was the term field is so archaic and it just doesn't make sense. And to this day, I'm going to be honest, transparent. I am so shocked that a lot of the nursing associations didn't gravitate towards this innovative term. I'm shocked. And here's another thing that was very interesting. I had this nurse, and she's an executive. And I asked her, I said, well, you're having this innovative conference. How come nursing ecosystem's not invited? Because keep in mind, nursing ecosystem, not only in the US, but we're extended to nursing ecosystem Africa. And I can tell you the support there is just amazing. So she said to me, well, here's the thing. I can see it being accepted over there. I said, excuse me? And she didn't, when people say something and they don't really mean any harm by it, but that's just the vernacular. That's just what they're used to. Right. So I said to her this. I said, well, this is very interesting. Let's say for the sake of discussion that these other countries don't have the medical equipment we have. Well, guess what? They're saving lives with less. So what does that mean? Technically, it means that they are a lot more innovative than we are. Because anytime that you could do the same caliber of work and you have less material, then that says a lot. And if we're here in this country here trying to search out innovators, why are we searching out some innovators? Because there are questions that are going unanswered.
This episode is brought to you by 5-Star BDM. 5-Star BDM is a professional consulting and advisory group keenly focused on business development services for small to mid-sized businesses and entrepreneurs. Although every business is unique, they often share challenges that can be addressed through smart branding. Services include process improvement in operations, digital strategy and transformation, business intelligence, digital marketing, and personal branding. Our 5-Star business and personal branding company has helped a number of professionals and organizations to optimize and grow. The result is more business, more opportunities, better reach, positive outcomes. Please visit www.5starbdm.com to learn more and view all the episodes of Follow the Brand.
And technically, everybody can't be an innovator because if everybody's an innovator, what's left? Nothing.
No, and certainly not. Everybody does not have that creative mindset, or they may be too close to work at hand to you got to be able to step back and take a look at other opportunities. And what you just said is so true. And with the the numbers about U.S. health outcomes being so poor, I don't think it's all about having the best technology. Is the best use of the tools that you have. And I think that's what I heard loud and clear. And so this is one of the reasons why we're doing this show, because we want to give more awareness around the nursing ecosystem. When I first saw you, you were doing branding around red bloodless.
Yes.
And I saw that was right around the first part of the pandemic, if I remember right. And you got my attention. You've got my attention. You continually get my attention in what you're doing. And I like that. So And I'm sure people want to ask this too, because I got a lot of people that are very interested in branding, very interested in marketing, very interested in those things. So how did you establish yourself as an expert in what you do? And I'll take the word expert off the table. I would say, how do you establish, okay, in your profession and what you do? Where did Carl get his knowledge and understanding and expert? Yeah, okay.
Okay, that's a good question. Let's start with red bloodless medicine and surgery. The brands that you see is because of my deep down desire to tell a story. I really do care about the nurses. And what's interesting about the nursing ecosystem, many of them that I've posted, and I've posted, I don't even know the numbers, but years later, I see them make achievements in nursing and they remember me. And we're chatting like we know each other personally, and we've only, like you and I, DM'd, but there's a relationship, and nurses have a loyalty. So with that being said, when I came up with red bloodless medicine and surgery, it was out of a passion. And it started when I was a child. My family were Jehovah's Witnesses, and we always benefited from the medical profession coming up with advances in bloodless surgery. Now, it's not that Jehovah's Witness, that niche, they didn't want medical treatment, but basically they wanted to find the best way they possibly can without accepting blood transfusion.
Got it.
So now, I woke up about maybe a couple of years ago, and I said to myself, wait a minute, how come with all advances that have taken place over decades, how come we don't know more about it? And then it dawned on me that the general public really wasn't exposed to a brand. There wasn't any bloodless brand. So then I said, well, why don't I just develop a brand? So I told my wife, and she thought I was crazy, But I said, well, what can I lose? So I started out developing the brand. And the brand, there was iterations. At first, I didn't know where I wanted to go with it. Did I want to educate people about it? Because I feel when it comes to that decision, it's a personal one. So it wasn't don't take blood, but it was more so that there's an option. Now, this was pre-COVID. COVID comes along and changes everything. So that's when I think we came across, and I developed these posts on the CDC about wearing your mask, staying at home, and it was powered by red bloodless medicine and surgery. So the beauty of that is that now that term bloodless is exposed to a greater international audience. And I met so many wonderful doctors and surgeons. And interesting enough, they said that if we had a choice, we would try to go bloodless. So then we came up with the recent campaign, Think Bloodless. Just think bloodless. And that's where we are now with all those changes and trying to find the right positioning for marketing. And I just want to make this point too. Branding is about being willing to make changes, but also keep the integrity of the look. And I think persons miss that. If you look at my nursing ecosystem, if you looked at my red bloodless medicine and surgery, I try to keep the same look even though the message changes. And I think that's the challenge that for many of your listeners, that branding is just not having a logo and having a color and then, putting some information. You have to show a level of consistency, loyalty to your brand, and then incorporate a message that works along with it. And have some emotion in there. Sometimes I had humor. Sometimes I was direct. But whatever I try to do, at the end of the day, I need you to stop. I need you, when you slow it down, to stop. And if I have you stop, whether you like me or not, I've done my job.
You said something because that stop scrolling, right? Stop scrolling because, there is so much content out there, especially in social media, in the DM. And, so in order to get attention, you've got to be creative. and you've got to have a message. And telling a very good story, just listening to your story right now, I learned so much more about the why, why that was important, to you. And that drives it even deeper in myself about what that's about and who Carl McIver is all about. Now, do you have any brand professionals that you look up to? Is there anybody out there like, man, that guy, or girl or whoever it might be is just, they're very creative? I mean, is there anybody out there like that?
That's a good question. I could be good today and put something out there that stinks tomorrow. Carl, what do you put out there? So I like to look at companies that I think that are doing something so different. Tesla is one. We're living in Connecticut, and I was driving, my wife looked at this car on this truck. She said, "What is that?" And I had no idea what that was. Later on, I found it was a Tesla. Now, here's the thing with Tesla. If someone said to you, "I want you to buy this $40,000, $80,000 car," you're not going to test drive it. Just send me the money over the internet, and you're not going to go in the showroom. What kind of crazy stuff is that? Just think about that for a second. And not only that, the Tesla, sometimes you can talk to some of the owners, then sometimes something's a little bit like the door. It's just little minor things, but not great. And here's a company that's not the size of the Fords, the General Motors, it's a small in comparison. Where's the ads? There are no Tesla ads. I've never seen a Tesla commercial to save my life. So how is it that this company was able just to change the whole way business is done? Business is done. And if you're going to someone and describe that, they'd say, "You're crazy." So I look at formats like that. I look at Apple. Same consistency. When Steve Jobs was alive, obviously, things were creative, and they're creative now. But just think about it. The simplicity, the way they're able to reach the heart of the viewer, engage. So I look at them as icons for me, because obviously they went through transition of people. They're the same people not with them, the creative people. But when I look at that, that's how I try to craft a nursing ecosystem, the way I try to craft red bloodless medicine and surgery. And now the new brand, I think everyone's seeing with the MetaVerse fitting. And MetaVerse fitting is basically fitting you for avatar, MetaVerse fitting. And I think that some of the posts are very comical. Here you have a big head and we're measuring stuff. And it give you an idea of the branding behind that. The reason why you see different people doing things, because I want to open up the metaverse to different categories of people, whether it's sports, whether it's music, whether it's ballet, because the metaverse is meant for different types of groups, categories to take advantage of. So we're also going to be introducing something new, real estate on the metaverse. So I may be you may see posts of different buildings that we want to construct that maybe yourself, maybe you say, Grant, he owns a condo on the metaverse where you can take your viewers there and have meetings with them. So we'll be releasing some posts. Look for the release of those posts. So that's where we're going.
You answered the question. You're answering the question. I'm not done with you yet, because this is interesting. Because I'm gonna ask the question from my audience. There's a lot of small business owners out there, people that are involved in different industry and verticals. They're always looking for a creative edge. And what you just said is that the metaverse is the new creative edge, that you can now create difference. So let's just say I am a small business and that I produce a service, let's say a service or a product. This is for the healthcare industry. And this is new. I need to now brand myself in the metaverse. How did I then come to you and hire you for this service? What do I get for what this metaverse is doing?
That's a good question. I'm going to go back and in history a little bit and show you why certain formats work. When I worked for Mount Sinai Hospital back then, hospitals weren't advertising. This is way before they were doing ads. They were dependent upon insurance and dependent upon, I guess, people locally to come to them. Mount Sinai started doing ads. They had an ad agency start branding. I said, wow, this is amazing. Now, I was working there as a graphic designer full-time. And then I saw these guys come in, and what they were making an hour was probably what I was making a year. I said, wait a minute, I can do the same thing. So I went out on my own, and I started brand for hospitals like Montefiore Hospital, Metropolitan, many of those hospitals on my own. Now, here's why. Ad agencies their billing rates are way up here, right? And nothing is down here. So hospitals will be willing to pay this if they can get similar quality work. So now let's fast forward here. There's so many nurses that are trying to develop their brand and their look, right? And they really won't be able to afford top tier talent. It's not going to happen. So what happens is that there need to be someone that can provide something for them that could give them an edge without them breaking their bank. The metaverse, the way we want to do this is now give someone like that an opportunity where it's affordable. Because think about it. Are you going to call some of the large companies that we all know of and say, hey, I'm a nurse and I'm doing my little business here. Can you help me? What are the chances?
Yeah.
So here we hope to be that entrance level for those that are entrepreneurs and they have a little budget and they want to do something. The same when it comes to video, the same comes to branding. Now, obviously, I would not be able to support the greater number of those that need support. But through the metaverse, I think that I can support more. And it can allow for an organic exchange of ideas. And that was my goal for the nursing ecosystem, to develop a platform where individuals can come and share ideas and concepts. So that's still formulating, it's still developing. So if anything, I'd like to be known maybe as a builder, that's building infrastructure and that could be utilized by others. And maybe that's why sometimes some associations don't get involved. Maybe they need to be more builders,
Well, it's all about timing and an opportunity. And with now, what we call now the great resignation that's taking place, there's healthcare shortage of nurses all over the place. Nurses are finding new opportunities. And you're starting to see more collaborations come together. And this is formulating into new business opportunities that weren't there before. People are starting to say, as you said, why am I sitting here because a business will only pay you what they can afford. Yeah. They're not going to pay you what you're worth, what your true value is. You have to determine that yourself. And the only way to do that is to produce a service or a product that people will buy. And then you'll see right away, what your value truly is, or what people are willing to pay for your value, right? And I think you're hitting on a very, very good, first of all, timing and opportunity for people to explore. Let's explore that. You talked about Tesla, you talked about Apple. I remember when these companies were nothing. And then all of a sudden they just grew and grew and grew. And some of them had great creative people behind them, like a Steve Jobs or an Elon Musk. We're not all going to be that, but we can be creative in our own world because we know what we know. And if you can couple that with somebody that knows what they know, you can come out with something that's very, very powerful. So I like where you're going with that.
And I want to add to that. I don't know everything, but what I do know I try to just push it so far out of the bounds that it's different. And I think that may be something that many of the nurses and many that are listening to really understand. Partnerships are key. And another thing I think we discussed, really showing value to others and complimenting others. Because the more I compliment and the more I show you valuation, the more I show you value, I get valued. It's an amazing process. And I think, Grant, we talked about this, and actually, you saw this in action.
Yeah, I did. You're right. Yeah.
I probably won't go into details, but you saw the principle behind this. And you become in front of other people. Nursing ecosystem is an example of that. There are posts where I'll introduce nurses into a post that may not be directly related to. But now they get introduced to someone that they probably would not have met before through that integration, through that post.
So what you're saying there is and I found that very interesting, because you're taking it from, hey, I do a post, somebody likes it, or I may connect with somebody, and then that's it. They're not having conversation, you know, and then you get a lot of people, sort of like in my world, sales professional, and then they just start pitching you. You don't even know this person. I mean, you wouldn't walk up to somebody in the real world and just like, hey, what's your name? I'm Carl. And then I just start pitching you everything. Bob might be like, well, hold up. You know, it doesn't work that way. We're starting to get deeper in our virtual platform. So it is a true conversation. You're making a true connection with that individual. You have an opportunity to read their background of what they put on their social media. So you can start like, all right, here's a conversation. Where can we come together to grow and to be better? And that is a great point. You want your network to be working with you and for you all the time, and that you engage with people that want to engage with you. And at the end of the day, you have stellar value. And I get that from you, Carl. I appreciate that.
I want to share something with you that actually changed my whole thinking, because I didn't think of it. One night I was going through videos late at night, and I came across KRS-One. You know the rapper.
Yeah, sure do. Yeah.
Now, what I'm about to say, if your viewers listen to this, it'll change their whole way of doing business. So I watched KRS-One, and he was I guess, in some college talking about business. So he said, I don't care if people use my name. I want them to use my name. He said, but as long as I am authentic. He said, but the biggest thing about business is you can't be prejudiced. Once you prejudice, you limit yourself. I thought that's interesting. Then he said this. He said, you have to validate others. The more you validate others, the more you will be validated. So he said, let me give you an example. He said, say, Grant, you and I are sitting down. And I said, Grant, I got an idea for a rap. And you go, yeah, what is it? I said, Carl is the best, Carl is this. And you go, man, Carl, that's whack. Right there, none of us achieve nothing. We sit with nothing. Now, what if I say, hey, man, Grant, let me run this rap by you. Carl is the best, Carl's this. Man, Carl, I think that's hot. Man, we got to do something with that. You validated me. Now we have something. Now we walk along the street. Someone hears me sing that, and they say, Grant, what's he singing? You don't say, man, that's whack. You say, you hear what he's saying? Now, because you validated me, this guy hears the conversation and he wants to get involved. Now, if you poo-poo it or say, man, that's whack, then you look bad. Now, I just shared with you a platform that's very interesting and it works. The more you validate others, the stronger you will become. The problem is that most people when they start their business, it's about them. If you look at my bio, it doesn't say CEO, it doesn't say president, it doesn't say anything about that. It actually talks a little bit about me. And I took my personal photo away because I realized I got to work more to validate everyone else. So the more I validate you, in the process, we both get validated. And right what I just shared with you is the whole formula for the nursing ecosystem and red bloodless. That's why so many people in various stratas are involved. And because if you look at my numbers, it's very streamlined. I just don't accept people in because I want it that way so I can look at the analytics. Because if I had any Tom, Dick, and Harry by eating ice cream, then it'd be false analytics.
Right.
So I keep it very streamlined. So I know that when I see these numbers are coming from not only qualified individuals, but individuals that have some skin in the game of whatever area they're in.
No, that's why, and that's golden knowledge that you just shared about who to accept into your network and why. And then when you do accept them into your network, work with them. Don't just have them as a connection. Let's find out what the story is. Everybody has a story. Every single person has a story that is interesting, whether it's, not everybody, like you said earlier, you don't have to be the CEO of a certain company. You can just be that person who just validated your neighbor who becomes whatever he's going to become, whether that's going to be a famous rapper or not, but he's going to be good in his neighborhood because he's showing you the way. And I like that. And before we conclude, and we've been talking, great conversation. Right. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn, they can always DM me. I love DMs. DM me because I like a little conversation. I really try to have a conversation with everyone that DMs me. And I think I'm easy to be found.
Well, yeah. Well, definitely. It was a Carl McIver on LinkedIn. I think that's probably, I'm sure you'll come up. And before we conclude, I always give my audience, my guests, I should say, an opportunity to say something they haven't said already. And to step away and just like, hey, if you were talking to someone that is starting along this run, and here they are, they're at the cusp. That's what I'm seeing now. You're at the cusp of a whole new digital era, post-COVID. Everybody talked about the internet boom in the 1990s, and it completely changed our world. There's no doubt about it. Here we are now going into 2022, coming out of COVID. What would you talk? How would you frame a conversation to someone that would be motivational?
And then we talk about entrepreneurs, persons that want to start initiative. Have an idea. Very few people have an idea. They have a service, may have a goods, but an idea. Nothing beats an idea, a strong idea. Have a different idea. It's so easy to follow the course of everyone else. And the challenge with following everyone else's course is that when you fail, you feel that it's personal. And it may not be. It's just by the numbers. If I put a post on LinkedIn, and let's say the post is green, 1,000 people put the color green. It wasn't because I failed because of my post. It was because I'm doing what everyone else is doing. So you have to be different. Now, different can pay a price because people may not understand you. That happens. I'm sure there's been many that didn't understand my posts. But think about the folks that were not understood in history. Prince was not understood. Well, you sure understood him later. Like you mentioned, Facebook, Apple. Think about eBay. Think about Amazon. Does it even make sense that someone says, look, we're not going to make anything. We're just going to be a bridge for people to buy stuff? What sense does that make? Now, Amazon owns everything. So don't be afraid to be different. And Don't be afraid to fail. And don't be afraid if someone looks and says, I don't understand what you're doing. And don't be afraid not to make money. Because the bottom line is money does not make an idea better. It doesn't qualify it, but in time it does. In time it does. So this metaverse is going to be very interesting because many of you are probably saying, well, I have to make money. I have to see this, I have to be able to make money from it. But here's the thing. Look at Las Vegas. Remember, Las Vegas was a desert. It's not a desert any longer. So what today's desert is doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be tomorrow. And then sad to say, when some of us wake up, we can't even afford any space on it because we slept. So now's the time to really wake up and do what we can.
Man, great advice. You've got to live in that world I call the invisible world. And as it becomes visible, right? That's how morning comes. First it's night, and then slowly, little by little, minute by minute, the sun does rise. And I feel we are coming upon a new dawn in this digital age. You're hearing about cryptocurrencies. You're hearing about Bitcoin. You're hearing about electric cars. Our world is changing. It is an opportunity to get on board and not be behind the curve, but ahead of it.
Yes.
So I thank you very, very much, Carl, for joining me on Follow the Brand. I always tell my audience you can join and see all the different episodes on my website at www.5starbdm. That's B for brand, D for development, M for masters.com. We are building a 5-star brand that you can follow. And I am so happy to have a follower in Carl McIver. Thank you very much for being on the show.
Brand,
and have a fantastic.
Thank you for the honor and the privilege.
You are most welcome. You take care of yourself.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.